Wolong Fallen Dynasty. You've played this game, haven't you?
Indeed.
How do you like it so far? By the way, guys, I brought in FightinCowboy, obviously our Nioh expert, at least in my opinion. I don't know anyone that is like more of an expert or addicted to Nioh than you personally. And you definitely like those games way more than me. I'm much more into the Souls. I kind of feel like you're more into Nioh than Souls almost, right?
See, 100%. But it's interesting because to me, Nioh is like, it's basically, I mean, a lot of people like to invite the Diablo comparison, which is accurate.
Yes.
But the grinding aspect of Nioh isn't that far off from, like, say, Diablo or Monster Hunter, and you love Monster Hunter. So I'm surprised you don't mesh with it more.
It's like
I love the grind of Nioh.
I love Nioh. The thing that usually ends up happening with me in both Nioh 1 and Nioh 2 is like I'll finish the game, I'll have a blast with the base game. Then by the time the DLC comes out, I feel like I have to readjust because it plays so differently from most of the other games, like in terms of both the pacing, the button inputs, all of that. So I'll kind of have to readjust back in Nioh, and I'm an old man. I have a hard time readjusting my brain to that at this point. I'm getting too old for this, man. Like, I raged so hard at Wolong, which means that whenever I do play the game, it's going to be hilarious for people to watch. Because, like, I actually raged a decent bit at it. But
see, I don't even think this is that. Like, you can clearly see the Nioh inspiration, but
yes,
gameplay-wise,
it's different.
Yeah, it felt almost like there was more of a Sekiro influence because, you know, obviously the big emphasis on parries and deflects.
Yeah.
The attack patterns are pretty simplistic. I mean, you have your standard attack, or that you have your heavy attack, and it seemed like you had two variations. You could either weave the heavy in at the end of a normal combo, or do the heavy standalone. So really, you have two separate heavy attacks, and then your regular light attack chain, and then your deflects and your specials and all that. So there's definitely Nioh influence, but I'm seeing this more as in the Sekiro-like pile as opposed to the Souls-like pile
and
so far.
And there's quite a few things that point to that. But before we even get to like the combat specifics that I want to dive into, I wanted to ask you about the visuals, because definitely I feel like one of the things that comes with Nioh, and somebody told me in one of my streams, which I thought was a pretty apt description, excellent combat, but like with PlayStation 2 graphics. Now, it's not exactly, like the graphics on Nioh are terrible, but they do feel a little bit dated. And I felt like with Wolong, there was definitely a bigger effort in that department in terms of visuals.
I mean, I'm pulling it up on my side just to like look at this as we're discussing, because I felt like the graphics were pretty good. I mean,
I'm talking about the graphics of Wolong, not Nioh.
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
Yeah. No, and the thing is with Team Ninja's design, there's like a I don't know what to describe it as. It's almost like there's like a mesh that's almost placed over all of the graphics to kind of give them like a grittiness almost, and I think that's what a lot of people refer to, because it doesn't have the same level of like crispiness that say the Demon Souls remake had, or even Elden Ring. It doesn't have that crispness. There's like I don't know, just like a blanket canvas that like kind of dulls the visuals a little bit, but I think it's more of a stylistic choice than just a straight graphical choice. Like, I think it looks good, especially like, I mean, obviously when you're running around in like the dungeons and whatnot, but like out in the environment, you can see details on trees that are way out in the background. You can see mountain peaks. So there's a fair amount of like outer environment detail in this. I mean, I'm looking at one of the rope bridges right now, and like you can see individual detail on the ropes and the way they're bound up and whatnot. Like, yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
No, but that's the thing. That's what I was saying. I feel like there's been more of an effort from a visual standpoint in Wolong when compared to something like Nioh or Nioh 2. I felt like in there, they didn't put as much effort into like the visual details of the maps and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot of details and enemies and whatnot. But Wolong, I feel like, is definitely pushing that a little bit further than what we are used to from these types of games from Team Ninja, I felt, which is why I wanted to bring it up. Even it just felt like a more updated game, because Nioh usually comes out and you kind of feel like it's a little bit dated on the visuals, is what I was saying.
Yeah, no, and I think a big part of that is the armor system, because you go through so many pieces of armor. You're just like mix and match and shit and throwing it on. And I think your character just kind of has this like homogenized look where he's designed to just kind of, Yeah, he's designed to blend into the environment, you know? He doesn't have to have his own distinct character profile. It's like, just give him a mixed match of a bunch of enemy stuff and he'll be fine.
So one of the first things that I want to touch up on, because, I mean, both of us obviously played the Nioh demos back when they came out. Now, I've always felt like the demos themselves usually end up being much harder than the final game. Because, like, you play the demos and you're like, oh my God, this is really hard. And then you get on the game and you're like, well, this is not nearly as hard as it felt during the demo. And I think that that's going to be the case for Wolong as well. Because I feel like some people will try the Wolong demo. And because they have to adapt to this combat system that is fairly, it's not the usual combat system that you might find in other games. And I kind of feel like people might think, oh, this is too hard. I'm not going to be interested in it. Where do you land on the difficulty that we got for the demo?
So I'm a little bit back and forth because I remember, with the original Nioh, I remember the demo was brutal.
Yes.
Like by far some of the hardest Souls-like stuff ever. And then they toned it down for like demo 2. And then the final product I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
The Nioh 2 Alpha, I remember feeling the difficulty was pretty balanced. I mean, you were still getting like 3-tap by enemies, which felt like a bit much. But I think a big thing is those games, they're so gear-based that those demos, they throw you in with like, white or gray gear. So it's expected that you're going to get destroyed. But this, I don't know. I felt the difficulty was pretty good here. I do feel the parry was way too tight.
The parry window?
The parry deflect. Yeah, someone was saying that somebody like data mined it, and like Sekiro was 20 frames worth, and this is at like 8, which is insane. Because if I don't know if those numbers are accurate. This is obviously hearsay. But yeah, I mean the parry window. To me, it felt tight, and I loved. I mean, I did a no death run of Sekiro. I absolutely clapped Thymesia. These parry centric games I actually enjoy more than your standard Souls formula. And this, like there were times where I was like in the zone and flowing with it, but the parry was super tight, and I think that's a big part of the difficulty. Also, I think it's the button configuration too, because the parry was the same button as the dodge. So you dodge it because it's not a true parry; it's like a directional, it's like a misdirect and move out of the way as you do stuff. So you have that. But if you double tap it, you have a dodge, and both of those things will decrease your spirit bar. And so I think that threw people for a loop. Like if the directional parry was tied to the block button and it was like tap to parry, hold to block, like a lot of other games have done, I don't think people would have complained as much. But the way it was, it just felt off.
I was thinking about the same thing for a while because obviously having dodge and parry in the same button is a little bit weird. I do think it would have been better if they were to put that in the block. That was also the solution that I was thinking, like, yeah, probably move that over to block, probably end up with a much better system. The problem there is also like, then there's no punishment for trying to parry, which I kind of feel like is what they're trying to do. They're trying to punish you for mistiming it. The problem is that they're also doing the Elden Ring thing of like, if you're in a boss fight, the boss is going to hold their attacks for a long time. So he telegraphs and then holds, and you're like, no, don't do this. And then he punishes you. But the parry system did also feel incredibly tight, and the button configuration could be improved upon. Whether or not they choose to do that, we'll see. One of the things that a lot of people told me is that I didn't block nearly enough and that I should have blocked more. It's just I always feel like blocking is a punishment when you're talking about these games.
So yeah, when I beat the boss, I started blocking more. I switched over to, I think it was the Earth Virtue, because I basically had close to heavy armor, and the Earth Virtue had like reduce key cost on blocking, or whatever the equivalent is for this game. And then I was like, all right, here's going to be my game plan. I'm going to block him until he does his red unblockable thing. I'm going to parry that, and then I'm going to beat his ass. And that's the attempt I beat him. So blocking isn't very punishing at all in this game. It's borderline free compared to like how much spirit or whatever you're using for your dodges and parries. Blocking felt very, very chill. Definitely block more.
When I was talking about like I always have this feeling that it's like I'm wrong. I know that I'm wrong, but it's just the vibe that I get. It's like, oh, you don't want to block, you want to dodge. So I just start dodging all over the place. I did beat the boss by dodging, but I picked very specific configurations. And there was something that I want to talk about later as well. But like while we're talking about this, let's dive into the whole spirit gauge situation. So the spirit gauge in this game is like a key mechanic for people that haven't played it. It's the gauge that shows up immediately below your health. And this is a gauge that goes into orange if you're doing poorly, and it goes into blue if you're doing well. So it's basically, it's almost like the gauge that we have in Sekiro. What was it called? The posture gauge, whatever.
Posture gauge.
Yeah. But it goes both ways. So it goes to both the blue side, which is advantageous, and goes to the orange side, which is not advantageous. And enemies have the same thing. So if they're hitting you, they're going into the blue, which I believe also increases the damage. Definitely felt like you dealt more damage when you're in the blue. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it worked. But when you go into the orange, then it's extremely limiting because your dodges get slower. And if they hit you while you're in the orange, then you're just like, your character kind of just goes down
there's
a little
stagger,
bit.
yeah. If you're orange,
staggered.
if you hit full orange and you get attacked, it's like having your key broken in Nioh.
Yeah.
So it punishes you for playing too defensively.
Yeah. But how did you feel about playing around with the spirit gauge system that this game has?
So blocking takes so little out of it. If you're using blocking, it feels pretty good. If you were trying to, like you said, if you were trying to do a dodge centric, or you were trying to do parry centric, but you were missing parries, it felt extremely punishing. Like, it felt like trying to play Nioh without using key pulses.
Yeah.
Because you were just bottoming that system out. And the other thing that I wasn't really vibing with is there was certain abilities, I don't remember which, I think it was your special attacks.
The special attacks, yes.
It would take, if you were doing well and you were getting into the blue, it would take that extra blue and it would convert that into bonus damage, which sounds nice on the surface, but I'd rather just keep that extra blue in reserve so that if I play sloppy and I take a hit, it comes out of the blue chunk versus putting me into orange. Because, if you're playing well and it's like blue meter, goes to damage, blue meter, goes to damage, you fuck up. All of a sudden, you're in this negative scenario where even though you had the meter over here, you've been pushed back to over here. I don't like that. That should be like a perk or something. Like, yeah, I want my blue to go towards damage, not, oh, you're doing well, great. We're just going to take that away, and we hope you stay well right in the middle.
It's the thing about those special attacks is that I felt like there is too much risk for not enough reward. That's what I felt with the special attacks. And so what did you focus on? Because like there's the stat system, and I've done 2 playthroughs of the demo.
Attacks.
You mean this? What?
The special attacks. I literally had a build that focused. I was a tank that used the special attacks.
Okay. Yeah, but like what stat was that? Is that No, it was the earth then.
It was so my primary stats were, I think, wood and fire.
Okay.
And then I ended up using the earth spirit, and I found a bunch of armor that was like bonus damage to key arts. So I had like an extra like 30-40% damage on those things. And then I did a combination where I put and we're kind of getting into build territory, but I was using the hyper poise from the earth tree, and then the heal on hit from the wood tree. And then I would poise through everything and just beat the shit out of stuff. And like I would do my special attack, and even if I got hit, I was healing for like about 15 to 20% of my health bar. So I was just this life-draining Havel monster that was poising through enemies and healing, and it was pretty satisfying.
I was actually curious if a playstyle like that would work, because I didn't play with earth. I did like a run through where I was mostly focusing on wood, and then I did another one where I focused on water because I wanted to see what stealth would feel like. But one of the things that I was wondering is like, how dependent are you on parries? Because on the 2 runs that I did, if you're not parrying, you're probably not going to make it through, basically.
Yeah, with earth, you can definitely go like beefy boy block centric, and you'll be fine. Especially with the heavier weapon. I was using the glaive.
Yeah,
and that thing is, I would say that's like the beefiest of the weapons, at least from what we saw in the demo. And that thing felt really good because I was just blocking and hitting big ass counterattacks. Like I would do a special attack and it would poise break any normal enemy. They were done.
So,
they were ready for the execute.
I'm confused because earlier you said there's an attack that you didn't like, and I thought you were talking about the special attacks. So were you talking about the spirit attacks?
No, so I like the special attacks, but there's a mechanic, and I don't remember if it's the special or the spirit, but there's a mechanic where if your spirit meter is into the blue, it removes the
Yeah.
blue and it adds it as bonus damage onto your like R1
Okay.
triangle or your. So I didn't like that because it was taking, like imagine you have all this bonus damage that's, or you have, to me, I'd rather keep that bonus posture in reserve so that if I take a pop shot that I wasn't preparing for, it just comes out of my you're doing good gauge versus my you're doing good gauge getting,
because even
pushed
your
towards extra damage.
Even your triangle attack consumes that significantly, the spirit attack.
Yeah,
I think
that might have been it. Yeah.
It's both
I don't know.
I mean, like both that and both the spirit, the R1 attacks, which is like R1 triangle or R1 square, both those consume a significant amount of spirit, as well as just pressing triangle to finish your combo. That also consumes a ton of spirit as well and kind of punishes you in the gauge. But I didn't care for the special attacks as much, but it's nice to know that, if you change the play style around, you play maybe a little bit more with Earth, that kind of works out.
I think it depends too, because I was playing around with it, and like you had to have a weapon that had multiple spirit attacks on it. Which towards the end of this level, you were finding weapons that had like 2 spirit attacks on them.
Was that based on weapon? I thought that was based on like our level.
Wait, I'm talking about the weapon attacks.
Yes.
I'm probably mixing the names up. What are they? Hang on, let me like.
It's like I don't know, but basically you have your basic attacks, which is square, triangle, and then you have the R1 attacks, which is R1 square, R1 triangle. You're talking about the R1 with square and triangle, those special attacks.
Yes.
I thought that those were based on your level.
Stuff.
Yeah, I thought that those were based on your level because as I leveled up, I was like, oh, I can now do these. I didn't realize whether or not they were associated to weapons.
Yeah, your weapon. So if you look at the inventory, your weapon would show.
Okay.
Because they weren't set. So your weapon could have a certain spirit attack on it, and like I ended up having one with the glaive where my one attack was this like spin to win thrust. So he would like twirl the blade around, knocking stuff back, and then stab forward with it, which if they were close could be a multi-hit. And then I had a second one, which was a little bit slower, but he just like would wind up and then do a big ass upward sweep. And that one would chunk. But there was like a noticeable like second to second and a half before it went off. Like it was like you were getting in stance.
The thing to me about those special attacks was always like the wind up, unless you have the poise that you were talking about. I would always get interrupted every time. I'd be like, okay, now's the time to capitalize. Someone would like tap me one time with like the weakest of attacks in the world and be like, oh, interrupted. I was like, oh, okay. That sucks.
See, that might be why too, because I was running, since I had a poise set up.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy for like, that attack was going off. Like unless I got hit by like a grab or something, it was going to hit and it was going to chunk. Like I was doing it and knocking the the crazy bird dragon thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was knocking that thing down.
Damn.
Like that thing would try to attack and it was like, sit down, youngin. And then I could follow up on that. Like it was doing some crazy damage when that was built right. So this game definitely is going to have the
gonna let you go
levels of like, ridiculous build. You're going to have the sneaky one-shot build and the poise monster build and probably some build that plays just using the wizardry magic, like just blowing fireballs off and stuff like that. So,
and dude, that's one of the things that I loved about it. When you brought up just wizardry magic right now, it reminded me of like, that's one of my favorite things about the spirit gauges. Instead of you having limited uses on your spells or on your attacks or whatever, or having any kind of limitation, all it's like, no, there's this gauge. And while you are doing well with this gauge, you can do your attacks as often as you want. Just be aware, every time you do one, it's going to take you closer to that orange spirit. So it's all about balance.
I did like that. I did like that a lot because it's a infinite use system that continually fills based on successful performance. That's good.
Yeah, I love that. The one thing, if I could say, is like I wish the UI on the spirit gauge was a little bit better because it's so thin that you really need to look at. I was like, dude, can we have like a thicker bar, like about the size of the health bar? Just give me like a thicker bar so that I don't have to really am I in the red? Am I in the blue? A lot of times I'd be like 100% the blue and I wouldn't even know. I'd just be like, yep, I'm doing good. This feels good.
Honestly, I think it needs to be probably double the current thickness.
Yes.
And I wouldn't even mind if it was like if you could move it, because the system, it kind of reminds me, there was a WoW UI I played with back in the day where it would do like this. Like you had So like if my head was the targeted enemy, there were health bars like this around your target.
Yeah.
The health slowly crunched
Oh,
down. Like,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. You're talking about like a HUD element that's almost like there's a proper name for it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd love if there were even just more options. Like where can I put this bar? You know, can I have it at the top of the screen, bottom of the screen, HUD element like that? Because it's so. The thing is with a thing like this, where it is intimately tied into the combat, and everything you do is going to be based on that posture system. I don't think you can have it as just, you know, like I can have a big ass stamina bar across the screen because I'm always going to have an idea of how many attacks I can do and whatnot. But because this is a give and take system, I think it needs to be immediately apparent. It needs to be bigger. There can't be, you know, I need to just straight out of my peripheral immediately know where I'm at in that spirit gauge.
Yeah,
I think right now it's too low.
I think that's
too low, too small.
It's definitely extremely important because otherwise you sometimes make decisions to, let me do like a spirit attack, and then you look, and because you weren't paying attention, all of a sudden you're completely in the red, and now your enemy taps you once, and boom, you're down, and you're going to get hit pretty friggin' hard. So the other thing that they did alongside this spirit gauge system was the morale system. How did you feel about that? Actually, let me just do a very quick explanation for people that don't know. Morale system is almost like a leveling type thing where you start off with, like, say, morale level 1, you kill a couple of enemies, your morale level 2 or 3, and it increases your damage. I think it might also increase your defense. Basically increases your character performance all around. And enemies have a morale system as well to them, which shows above their heads, which lets you know how hard a fight is going to be by comparing your morale to the enemy morale. And the better you do in the level, basically the more easier time you're going to have defeating certain enemies. And then if they kill you, the enemies gain morale for the next time that you go there, and there's a revenge system there. It's a really interesting system. How did you feel about that?
So I agree, it is interesting because there's certain enemies where, like the elite enemies, when you defeated them, you were getting a permanent morale boost. And then there was the flag where, like, you went through the level and planted the flag and you were getting a permanent morale boost. So by the time you reached the boss, if you did 100% of the level, you were going to be at 20 morale. You couldn't drop below that, which kind of reminiscent. I mean, I know it's very different systems, but kind of reminded me of like the Kodamas in Nioh. Like, you know, there are X amount of enemies and X amount of flags that you're going to want to find as you go through the level. So I did like that. At the same time, I'm not sure how that's going to feel on subsequent levels because there are abilities that are tied to the morale. Like the high-end wizardry spells, I believe, were 18 morale, and it's going to suck if I beat a level and then I go to the next level and it's like, all right, you are back to 1 morale. You will not be using this thing. Instead, you're going to have to use all of your basic stuff. So, you know, I hope you're happy with that because I want to be able to use those cool spells. You know, some of the
right
the
off
level,
the bat.
Yeah, the level 18. I mean, like the crazy lightning storm thing. Sorry, my cat's going crazy. You have the giant lightning storm thing, the ice storm. The earth one was crazy strong because you did like a big swamp bog. That stuff, it felt like stuff got slothed inside of it. Like I did it against the boss and he was like trudging through it. And I was just beating his ass. And so only being able to use that stuff at like the very end of the level, I'm kind of like, I want to use my stuff, you know? Like as if you ever, for example, if you have a wizardry build, unless, and there might have been a stat for this, unless you can significantly reduce the required morale level for those spell casts, it's going to kind of suck that
you have to use like weaker spells.
You have to build that back up. Yeah.
Not to mention that the punishment's going to feel even heavier. Actually, because I only used, when I went through, right, on my first run, I focused on the wood build, and I was mostly using like the spells that buffed your weapon and the life stealing spell and all of that. And all of those didn't seem to require a whole lot of morale. So I'd never even noticed that the morale was what was getting these spells and basically locked and not allowing me to use them. Because I did see sometimes, particularly when I was running with the blue build, the water build, I was like, why can't I use this spell? Like, well, what is going on? It's weird. I didn't even realize it was because of morale. But yeah, that's going to suck. I hadn't thought about that, but that is going to be a problem. Like if you're running heavy wizardry builds and subsequent levels and whatnot.
Well, especially with the temp morale, because like there were times where I beat the bird thing, because I was just fighting that thing for a while, just like practicing it. So I got a couple of really goofy kills on it, and I wanted to just like beat it down. Like I managed to gravity kill the bird like 3 or 4 times.
The first time that I met the bird, I gravity killed it by mistake, and I was like, I'll take that.
Yeah, same. I popped my ultimate, and the bird got knocked back off a cliff. And then the subsequent times, I was starting from the little bonfire you get, and I shot it with an arrow, and when it ran up, I hit it with a fireball, and it would fall straight off the cliff. And so that bird was with a hefty little morale boost, though. So I killed that, and then I was like, okay, cool. I'm 18. I'm going to use this new spell. And then I die to something else, and it's like, spell's gone. Better go take it off again. And it's like, that shit's going to get real annoying. And I get it. It's a high spell, but I don't want to play through a whole level and then be like, okay, I'm at the end. Now I can put on my cool spell. There needs to be some kind of way to reduce the necessary level. Even if it can't keep my morale level up high, there needs to be some mechanic where that 18 morale spell gets down to like, near nothing, and I can use it at the start of a level.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Actually, I think that's really good feedback for the developers. They need to be watching my channel and subscribing and all this thing. But I thought the morale system was interesting from the standpoint of like, if you collect all of the flags alongside the level, because the first time that I tried beating the boss, it was just like wailing on me, and there was almost no chance, because I think I had, 16, 17 morale, something like that. So I was down quite a few flags, and I was like, okay, let me go back. Let me grab some more of these flags. That's when I realized, because I just wanted to explore the map more, and that's when I started realizing, if you put these flags down, you gain this fortitude thing, which basically sets the base level of your morale, which then is going to set me up to beat the boss a lot easier. So that was cool. But it kind of, in a way, it almost dictates the difficulty of the level. So that when you have people coming by and say, we need an easy mode, it's like, no, just plant some more flags. You'll be fine. You'll be okay.
I'll tell you what, it's gonna suck for people trying to speed run this.
Oh, yes.
Like, you can't just speed run flags. There's because most of the flags are guarded, so you have to defeat the enemies to get to the flag, and then you have the unique enemies that you also need to kill for a morale boost.
But the thing is going to be like, if you're speed running, you're not wasting your time planting flags. You're not. No.
The
problem here is you're not going to be able to skip. You're not going to be able to skip enemies because you need the morale boost.
Yeah, you're going to get to the boss, and it's going to be like, unless you are playing this no hit flawlessly, you're going to get destroyed. Whereas someone like me, I'm meticulous as shit, so this is perfect for me. I'm like, I'm rewarded for going through the level 100% already. Great, because that was the plan.
Yeah, it's like that. That's the way that I like to play too, exploring like every little nook and cranny. Like the first Elden Ring playthrough, I can't even imagine the people watching that, and I'm just like, what's over there? What's over there? And it's like spend 3, 4, 5 episodes like just in the same area.
Yeah, the first Elden Ring playthrough was never ending. Every time I was like, okay, this is it. We're coming up to the end. It's like, there's a whole ass new area. Here's 2 new areas, and I'm like, okay, it's more. It's more. It just doesn't stop. It never stopped.
So
I do want to play more of the demo. I want to play, because I'm going on like a mini vacation on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I think today or tomorrow I want to jump in. I want to, because I have like a stream of it, but that's my thoughts across 3.5 hours. So I need to go back in and play it and have my own like condensed thought process on it.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the stat system? I thought it was interesting, because usually when you talk about these games, you got like stats like, here's the stat that affects your hit points. And that you still have some of that, but instead of you having like strength, dexterity, you have like fire, wood, metal, earth. It was weird.
So it's obscure, but there was a lot of feedback. Like if you push the touchpad, you could scroll over and it would. They did the Elden Ring approach, where you could see explicit information on exactly what that stat does. Like this stat decreases the total amount of spirit that is used on a successful block. So it's very obscure at first glance, which is just that's par for course with Nioh. Here's a bunch of strange terms you don't understand. Good luck. But I mean, to the people that actually like dig in, I think it's pretty clear. So I was liking it, because once I figured out what to go for, it was like, okay, this is going to boost my attack. I think I want to have a little, like I ended up boosting, I think maybe it was either wood or it was metal, but there was one of the stats that it decreased activation of the wizardry spells and then increased buff duration, which I think was wood.
I remember that wood was something, it increased your hit points.
Oh, everything increases your hit points.
Yeah, but wood I think increased it. Actually, I'm not sure.
More. I don't know. Well, one of them, I put it in and I got it to where I could then, because typically it was like half a spirit bar to put up a buff, and I managed to put enough in where I could squeeze out 3 buffs on the default spirit bar, and so that was good because at the start of a fight, I was putting up, my poise armor, my attack on hit, and then usually either an elemental effect on the weapon, or there was one that would ramp up how much spirit you were getting from attacking the enemy. So
that is definitely wood. I'm pretty sure because I was using that one as well. Yeah,
I became super spirit healy poise man, and I was just like, oh, nothing can stop me. it was pretty stupid because I had enough poise that I could go through everything except for like a critical grab, and I had enough health gain and spirit gain that I could just get slapped in the face, and my guy would not care. He would just keep attacking. Which I'm pretty sure, and this was with a glaive. So with like something like dual blades, I don't know if they gain less because they're faster attacking, but this could be potentially even more broken.
The big thing about dual blades, because I played dual blades, and in the final boss, I felt like I needed to swap because dual blades was just not punishing the boss enough, and also did not. It had good reach, but it wasn't able to like stun lock. You can stun lock the first phase of the boss entirely.
Oh yeah. You can put it into a corner and
you can't even move at all. So with the dual blades, it was harder to do that, and it was also harder to play around the whole thing about like, oh, I got to move away now, and now I got to go back in. It felt like I was always struggling, so I swapped to a scimitar or something, which also scaled decently with water. But like when I went in with the wood build, I just went in with a sword, and I just beat the ever-living crap out of that first. It was disgusting, and I didn't even have any of the earth stuff that you're talking about. So I'm thinking when the game comes out, I'm probably going to go wood earth, and it's going to be absolutely disgusting because I hadn't tried earth yet. Yeah, but it sounds
probably
good.
Going to be like a wood earth fire. It's going to be like Magic the Gathering setup. It's like, oh, I'm doing the Grixis build. This is water, earth, and a little bit of fire.
Yeah, but it was. I thought it was definitely fun, and one of the things that I always like about what they do with both Nioh and they're doing here as well is that there's always a weapon type that scales with a stat that you choose. So it's more about what weapon you want to play. So like you want to play dual blades, that's water. You max out water, that's like the scaling for the dual blades. You go for the whatever the glaive that you were doing. I think wood also had decent scaling on it because I was using that for a while.
I didn't even see stat scaling on the the weapons. I'd have to look.
Yeah, but
go back.
But they do scale off of each of the stats. So like dual blades goes for water, the iron sword, which I actually love the Chinese iron sword. For some reason, I've always enjoyed that.
Swords are really cool for sure.
Yeah, so that's the one that I was using, and that one's like the best scaling for wood builds. And I was like, this is perfect. I love this sword. This is what I want to do. The glaive felt a little bit slow, and sometimes I would miss the final spirit swing.
Oh, okay. I do see it. It. It's the star. It shows your scaling. I didn't even notice it. So yeah, the glaive, that explains why I was whooping ass. The glaive is like B metal and like A minus in earth.
Yeah.
And my guy was just pumping earth. So
yeah, exactly.
That explains it. It explains I was beating ass with that thing.
Yeah, that's how I chose my weapons. I was like, oh, this one scales off of this one scales off of that. The star actually shows you all of that stuff, which is
it's going to be really interesting. That's one of the things I liked about Nioh is there's going to, obviously this is just a pinch. It's a very quick look at it.
Yeah.
They're going to be, and this was just like, the four guardian spirits of Chinese mythology, and then the one, I don't know what he was, but he wasn't. I know that there's the 4 guardian spirits because I know him from Shin Megami Tensei and other Chinese lore stuff. So there's going to be way more, like, on par with how many we had in Nioh, obviously. And so there's going to be all sorts of bonuses, attack bonuses, critical bonuses, grapple bonuses. There's just going to be like bonuses on bonuses on bonuses, which is one of the things I like the most about games like this. There's so much build variety. Like,
how did you feel about the critical attack system? So it's basically you can break the posture. You can also do backstabs if you sneak up on people, and if I'm not mistaken, also the aerial attacks. And I think that those were the 3 opportunities that you had to do criticals. How'd you feel about that?
That felt good. I felt, I think that was in line with Nioh and with Sekiro and with similar games to this.
I particularly love the aerial assassinations because in Nioh, I don't think we get anything like that, do we? In Nioh, aerial stuff because there's not as much verticality.
So there's Nioh 2. There's a decent amount. There were plunge attacks, but they didn't count as criticals.
Yeah, as criticals.
So it wasn't like a death blow like you have in Sekiro. Whereas in here, it's a proper like you're gonna pin him and shove that sword through for like a solid half of his health.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. Like the targeting reticule that you have on the enemies also changes color to let you know when you can attack again. Not sure if you noticed that. So it grays out when you finish the attack, as in like you're not going to be able to deal any damage. Then it becomes white again when it's ready to go. Sometimes it was even weird for me because it would gray out and it would become almost invisible. And I'm like, did I lose lock on? What's going on? I can't see anything. It's weird.
The one thing that was throwing me off is the unblockables, because you would get that red glow, and then that tell you unblockable half to parry is coming up. But we had in Nioh 2 when we had the perilous attacks, and you had to use your yokai counter, they'd immediately have this flash of red, and when you saw that flash of red, you had to hit your parry usually within like immediately. Like you saw the red, you hit the parry. Now there were a couple where it's like you'd see the red and the enemy would charge up and come at you. And this was, I felt a lot closer to that. Like, especially on the final boss, he would do that one where it's like, it would go red, and he'd throw the sword back, and he's like, I'm going to get you. And I'm like, I'm ready to dodge. And he's like, I'm going to get you. And I'm like, okay, do it. And he's like, don't worry, it's coming. And I'm like, fucking attack. Like, I'm waiting here, bro. I'm trying to. And someone in chat was finally like, hey, try dodging backwards with it. That's what I had to do to get the parry. And when I was dodging backwards, it finally worked, because it just added enough of delay to compensate for his slow ass waiting to attack finally. And I was like, dude, like you can't, like, unless the attack is coming, don't show me that red dot, because I see that red dot and I think react. Makiri counter, react. Nioh, react. Not, get ready to react. I don't like get ready to react. I like react.
It's the old Elden Ring. I'm going to hold on to this attack forever, and now I'm going to hit you with it.
Yeah, like just do it already, man. Princess, what do you want? Oh my God, this cat. He's like, I want to be in your lap, but I don't. Pet me, but don't. I'm like, Osa, I'm going to put you out of the room if you don't stop. Too early for this.
The other thing that I want to talk about is actually the spirit beast. So you talked a little bit about what it was with the earth one and all of that. So each of the spirit beasts, they have a kind of like a summon type situation, which is similar to what in Nioh 1 was called living weapon. I forgot what the name was for Nioh 2. What do they call it in Nioh 2? It was not Nioh living 2, weapon. It was something else.
You had yokai form.
Yeah, it's yokai form.
There was 3 yokai forms depending on the affiliation. You had like a tanky, a roguey, and then a magey. Which the magey was just like glaives they could throw.
But in this one, basically, there's a spirit beast that you can summon, and depending on which one you have selected in the demo, you have 5 of them. Depending on which one you have selected, it's going to give you a different effect. Now, I only played around with the blue one and the green one. Now, the green one, I thought this one's amazing. It basically makes you invulnerable. Like, the final boss cannot kill you if you summon that thing, because it heals you so hard and so fast that the boss, I would summon it, and then the boss would just like straight up come at me, hit me like a million times, and I'd be like, yep. Doesn't mean anything. My health is regenerating so fast. Doesn't matter what you do. There's nothing you can do to kill me. While that thing is there. The blue one was like a turtle that spat ice at the boss or something.
Yeah, there were ice waves and little ice blasties and shit.
Yeah. So that one didn't feel particularly useful. What did the earth one do? You were talking about it earlier.
The earth one, I guess it's supposed to be defensive. It brings up a bunch of pillars of stone in front of you, like 6 or 7 pillars that will hurt the enemy if they walk into them. I know the metal one creates a little thing that fights alongside of you, and the red one would just attack, but it was like a 2 and done. Like it was a phoenix, so it would shoot up, it would shoot a bunch of fire quills down, and then it would do like a second volley, and then it was gone. So it was just some quick extra damage to add into your burst. But I feel like the summon one has the potential. I mean, I didn't get to try it, but the idea of I'm going to summon something that's going to fight alongside me, that's usually pretty busted in like any context. So
the biggest problem that I have with this, and this was actually the reason that I raged the most about the game, is that half of the times it wouldn't work.
The summon?
Yeah. You did not have this problem?
No, was your meter not full?
What meter? Oh, no. I know what you're talking
The
about.
summon meter. Okay.
The summon meter. Yes, it was full. It was full.
I didn't have issues there, but I did see a lot of people having complaints about the healing being unresponsive, which I know for me at least, the healing was terribly slow. Like it was.
Yeah, it's very slow.
It was worse than Dark Souls 2 Estus.
Oh, yes.
It was like you'd press it and your guy was like, oh, here we go.
All the while not moving at all and just like being completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm like, this is super high paced action, and you have by far, I think, the slowest heal I've ever seen in a Souls-like. Like that, it doesn't work, man. We got it.
I mean, but the thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes to that is that in this game, running does not consume stamina. So you can basically just like tap the run button.
I mean, yeah, but
you just
trying
like
to get away
run
from
to
enemies,
you're gonna aggro everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to like you can't. It's very once you are engaged in combat in this game, like not just like aggroed, but like you're fighting something, trying to disengage, I found quite difficult because you can't just like roll 3 times and then sprint away. Because if you like, you roll twice, let's say you dodge twice out, you get hit by like a stray attack or arrow. Oops, looks like you got posture broke. Now you're gonna sit there stunned for 2 seconds and everything's gonna surround you. Like when you decide I'm getting in this fight, you're basically in that fight to the death. It's going to be very difficult for people to disengage here.
If you've been clearing the level, right, and behind you there's nothing, you can totally get away. Like I was very easily, I'm just like, yep, hitting the run, L3, see ya, I'm gone, like instantly. That's how I actually killed the bird. It was like when I first saw the bird, I was like, oh hell no! I just ran away, and as I ran to like one of the bridges, the bird kept because they have like their aggro is insane.
The leash distance is very large, I noticed.
Yeah.
Stuff will follow you significantly.
Here's the interesting thing. So the bird kept coming, and then eventually it seemed like the bird had like, he had leashed back, and I was like, okay, so the bird leashed, and I started approaching it from behind, and all of a sudden it turned around and attacked me again. I was like, wait, I wasn't even running. How did you turn around? All of a sudden it was weird. And then he turned around, I ran back to the bridge, and he threw himself off a cliff, and I was like, perfect. This works. Great. So I feel like you
gotta get it.
You can run away. The problem is, if you want to stay engaged and if you want to like pot, it is a problem because it takes too long. But like the thing was, and this wasn't just me, like a lot of people were complaining about this, the Spirit Beast input, most of the times for me, did not work. Which is weird if you're telling me that it worked for you. You also played it on PlayStation 5, right? Yeah, so we both played on PlayStation 5. I heard a bunch of people complain about this, and for you it worked. You're just pressing circle triangle. That's it.
Yeah. So there was what I did notice one time is with the gauge. There's a moment before the gauge is full where it would like flash like once or twice, and I couldn't I tried activating it then and it wouldn't activate. But I noticed if the gauge was just lit up completely steady, and I went to press the button, it would activate. So I think there's like a pre-activation thing that shows, and I think people might have been trying to activate it during that. Because I noticed that, but like if I noticed it was full already and I went into the boss fight, when I pressed those buttons, it was going off.
That was not my experience. a big portion of the times.
It's a demo. They need to clean shit up.
Yeah,
I will say this compared. So I don't know if you played the Nioh 2 with the alpha demo, but I did. That was a mess. It was an absolute disaster. There was like, and I mean, to be fair, they didn't showcase it very well. There was like one new weapon. Besides that, all the other weapons were the same as the original. The skill trees were the same as the original. The enemies were same as the original. And so the Nioh 2 Alpha very much gave the impression of this is just DLC for Nioh. Like this does not seem like its own game. Whereas this did 100% have its own identity. This did not feel like Nioh 1.5. This felt. I've heard a lot of people say it's Nioh 3. It's Nioh really. 3, I mean, there's, and that's the thing. There's a lot of similar systems. The Spirit Beasts are very much like your beasts in Nioh. The stat systems and the building, but at its base, this is very much its own thing. I see a lot of Nioh inspiration, but I don't see this as Nioh 3. Between the spirit system, the infinite use of your spells, the way the weapons tie in to not just stats but multiple stats. I noticed most weapons had, when I was looking back a second ago, weapons had up to 3 scaling stats, which was a pretty large split. So there's a lot of systems here that I think make this very distinct from what Nioh was.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the start, a lot of people were saying it's like Nioh 3, but I didn't necessarily get that vibe because it's not like you have the, you don't have the Nioh stancing, you don't have the same diversity of stuff that you usually get from Nioh, and you have this very strict spirit gauge system that you have to work around. And like I said, the parries felt much more needed, but then again, I didn't try the Earth build, which might be the way for people that have troubles with parrying. They might actually be able to. By the way, because I've seen a lot of people in my comment section saying, "Oh my God, the parry is like way too hard." Try out the Earth build that Cowboy was doing. Like, just go heavy on Earth, get the spell that gives you poise, whatever. Try that instead. Maybe that'll work out and work with blocking instead of parrying.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious to hear from more people that try that out, how that works for you. Because again, one of the things that I said in my video is I felt like if you're the type of person that does not like parrying, yeah, because there's always people that don't enjoy the parry aspect, the very strict combat requirements of being able to hit it at the exact right time. And yeah, the vibe that I got was you need to engage with that, but maybe you don't.
No, you could play purely blocking, and then when the unblockables come out, just do a very well timed dodge. You could definitely play like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not how they want you to play, because you get bonus spirit back on successful parries, but you definitely could. And
it's not just bonus spirit back, because one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know how the bar is a certain size when you're fighting the boss? So like, here's your orange, here's your blue, and it'll be like, both together will be like this. If you successfully parry one of the critical hits, the bar goes like this for both blue and orange, which makes it way easier to break their posture and visceral them.
Yeah, they lose a certain amount of permanent bar size.
Yeah, but only temporarily, because then they get it back.
Yeah, well, it's until you get your critical. Basically, you're lowering them down, trying to force them into a
It's
critical.
not until you get your critical, because they can recover it before if you don't take advantage of it during that.
Oh, so I guess it rewards you, and you gotta, because every time I'd lower it, I would
momentum.
get to the critical.
Yeah, it's a momentum. Like, the whole attack system of this game is going to be based around momentum. So overall, what were your thoughts on it? Because like I remember you tweeting about it when they first came out with the game. Was it during a PlayStation thing that they first revealed it? I forget, a State of Play or something. Was that the first reveal of Wolong?
No, Wolong was Xbox Showcase.
It was actually in the Xbox. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I remember you tweeting back then when it was announced. You're like, "Oh, hells yeah, I'm into that." Like, how do you feel now that you've played it?
I'm very happy. Like, this is so my only 2 gripes were one, the parry frames are too tight. They need 8 parry frames is not okay. Not for a parry centric game. Parry should be close to doubled. Because like I said, I don't know if the numbers are accurate, but if Sekiro's are 20 and this game's actually 8, that explains why it felt so ridiculous.
I think there is one thing to that, and this is just like based on the feeling that I've gotten, is there's a weight system in this game as well. Not sure if you noticed it. There is a weight. You can go from green to yellow to, I don't know if it goes higher than that or whatever.
No,
but there's also
trust
blue.
me, I was playing as the Thicc boy. I wasn't
so
with the heavy gear. I wasn't in the quick dodge. I was doing the chubby rolls.
I felt like the window was more forgiving when I lowered my weight threshold, but I'm not sure. This is, again, it's just like a feeling that I got. So I don't know if the person who tested the frames, maybe they were in the top tier of weight or whatever. Maybe that's what, because I felt it was more forgiving when I lowered the weight tier. But yeah, the other thing that
that would make sense. You know, if your weight's lower, the parries are easier. I'd have to, if I have time, I'll try and mess around with it myself. Because how long's the demo good for?
It's up until the 25th. So like another week, a little bit less than a week.
Okay. All right, I'll need to look.
What was the other thing? You said the parries were too tight?
The heel. The heel is
too...
The heel's ridiculous. Yeah, because I get back the 24th, so I'm going to do a video on it. I'm going to have to... probably today. Probably today or tomorrow, yeah. So.
So anyway, guys, there's going to be links to all things FightinCowboy in the description of this video. You're going to be working on a Wolong video soon, I assume. What else are you working on right now?
Hopefully. Solstice, just started that. That drops, well, by the time this video is live, it'll probably have started. And then we got Valkyrie Elysium coming up towards the end of the month, and then it's just kind of getting into October. We're actually in a rather slow Q4. Like there's a lot of games, but you don't have like your typical heavy hitters that are dropping so far. Well, we got God of War, obviously, but I think that's November.
It's not even midish. It's like start. I think it's 9th of November, if I'm not mistaken.
That was 18th. It might be the 9th. Let me see.
I'm pretty sure it was the 9th, but you know.
Yeah, no, it's the 9th. It's the 9th. Yeah. So first week of November.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Until then, I mean, October is pretty chill. I've been playing a lot of New World again lately, actually.
Yeah, me too. I've been getting back into it. It's been pretty fun.
I went back, basically just to get ready for the Great Sword, but I hit 60, and that post 60 grind. Oh my god, that sucks. Just the like. Okay, you're here now. Now get ready to raise the gear score on 18 individual pieces of. Like, suck my dick. I finished the grind. Okay, I didn't finish the grind for you to. Congrats, your life staff level went up by 7.
Listen, there's going to be fresh servers soon. Don't you want to start all over again?
Yeah. Wow. The thing that's baffling to me is like even if you wanted to move to a fresh server, all of the crafting stuff, everything, would be back.
It's too much. Yeah, that's too much.
No.
But anyways, you can find, like I said, more stuff from FightinCowboy in the description. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.